You want to listen to a podcast?
By who?
Georgia GOP Congressman Doug Collins.
How is it?
The greatest thing I have ever heard in my whole life.
I could not believe my ears.
In this house, wherever the rules are disregarded, chaos and mob rule. It has been said today, where is bravery? I'll tell you where bravery is found and courage is found. It's found in this minority who has lived through the last year of nothing but rules being broken, people being put down, questions not being answered. And this majority say, be damned with anything else. We're going to impeach and do whatever we want to do. Why? Because we won an election. I guarantee you, one day you'll be back in the minority and it ain't going to be that fun. All right, hey everybody, welcome back. It's Friday's Finest. Yes, it is Friday's Finest. We're back. We got it's been a crazy week. We're going to get into that a little bit, but joining me in just a minute after the break is the great and famous Chip Lake. Chip will be joining us again. Also, James, our Texan by way of New Jersey, is always on the board, ready to go. Thanks for both of them last week for filling in while I was doing one of those things that fathers do, and that is marry off their kids. And my oldest son got married. We're very happy about that. They're on their honeymoon, and thank God the wedding's over. It was beautiful. My bride was beautiful. Everything went fine. But I am glad that, as the old preacher in me says, Sunday is coming. Well, thank God Sunday came. And we got all that done. But it was really pretty, really nice for Copeland and Holly. Congratulations as we go. Hey, before we get into the show today, after the break, we got a lot to talk about. Kevin McCarthy, we got a little bit of Washington we're going to deal with. And then we're going to get into just the nuttiness of the world, as we always do. And, of course, football, because right now we're in a 40-something day straight football every night until like November or something. It's going to be pretty crazy. So welcome back to Friday's Finest. Glad to have you with us. We'll be ready after the break. Hey, folks, when you look out and you see the country and just the disarray it is, you see the Biden administration, you see the wholesale prices have just went through the roof again. Inflation is tearing us up. If you have your finances all impinged in just a few areas, if you're just in stocks and bonds and you're not diversified, I got some news for you. You need a navigator. You need somebody to help you get to where you need to go with those finances. And I can't think of anybody better to do that than my friends at Legacy Precious Metals. You need precious metals in that portfolio. You need gold and silver. And Legacy Precious Metals, the folks there, they're the navigators. They know how to deal with tough times. They know and how to look ahead and take your personal situation and make it something that can be workable for you in the long term, because that's, at the end of the day, that's the one you're most concerned about. You need to make sure that your personal finances and your retirement are secure. You need folks like Legacy Precious Metals helping you in that. They will take the time to learn you. They'll learn your finances. They'll learn where your investment goals are, and they'll help you get there. And metals and gold right now, in this kind of crazy inflation, in this kind of crazy economy with the Biden's economy, is just, you need that help. And Legacy Precious Metals is the one to do that. So give Legacy Precious Metals a call, 866-528-1903, 866-528-1903, or you can always visit them online at legacypminvestments.com, and you can download their free investor's guide. Legacy Precious Metals, they're the ones you need. They're the navigators to help you too. 20th year anniversary, and over 80 million My Pillows have been sold. Mike Lindell and My Pillow wants to thank each of you and every one of you for giving you the lowest price in history on their My Pillows. You will receive a queen size My Pillow for $19.98. Regular price is $69.98, and just $10 more for a king size. You will receive deep discounts on all My Pillow products, such as bed sheets, mattress toppers, pet beds, mattresses, my slippers, and so much more. This is a time to try out something other than the amazing products that you've had your eye on. Go to mypillow.com, click on the radio podcast square, and use the promo Collins, Collins, to receive this amazing offer on the queen size My Pillow for $19.98, or call 800-986-3994. This offer comes with a 10-year warranty and 60-day money-back guarantee. It's time to start getting the quality sleep you deserve. You know how I know that? Because I sleep on a My Pillow every night. Go to mypillow.com and use promo code Collins, Collins, or call 800-986-3994 today. All right. Well, fellas, thanks for last week. I have gotten a lot of great comments from last week. Y'all kept it going. Yes, I love this, James. Thank you for the title there. I chose my son over the podcast. I guess that makes me a hero in some areas,
Just being a nice guy, that's all. Just want people to know what kind of person you are.
James, you just have it there, buddy. Chip, with producers like that, what else can you need,
That's right. What do you got?
We're out.
You got what you got.
A condescending
it
tone
is.
from both of you.
Yeah.
Oh, get a break, Sean. Oh, just shut up. All right, here we go. Hey, before we get started, though, we can't. I mean, Chip, you and I can't let this one go. Dear God, a week in which, you know, and we did this podcast on Wednesday, and I called it Thunderstruck. I wish I'd have just started the whole program with Thunderstruck from ACDC, because, I mean, you talk about sending shockwaves through the world. I mean, it is taking out a speaker is akin to impeaching a president. I mean, in many ways, you never see it. You hardly ever see it happen, and you always talk about it. But now it's happened. I mean, you were there when I'm going to say this, Chip. You were there when I believe this all started, and that was 2010. I believe 2010, 2011 coming in. This idea of a group of folks, and you know, back then, and look, the sharing a lot of values, but it became that if you don't do what we want, no matter how few we are, we're not going to compromise, and we're going to take you out. And we've succeeded now. Look, all three, I pointed this out on an interview yesterday. All three Republican speakers of the last 12 years have either been run out of office or voted out of office by the members. That's just, I mean, I don't know how to put that in perspective.
Yeah, it's hard to put in perspective when you look at it. You know, you look at it from you know, kind of from a 30,000 foot level. I mean, when James and I did the show last week, you know, we were talking about you know, the possibilities of a shutdown going in. You know, we didn't think that a week later that, I mean, if you'd have told me there wouldn't be a shutdown and Patrick McHenry would be the interim speaker last week at this time, I don't think the odds of that would have been very good. So, you know, look, there's so many ways to look at, you know, what happened this week. You know, I didn't think I would live in a time where, you know, 8 or 9 Republicans would really partner, because that's what happened, you know, with what was it, 213, 212, you know, Democrats to remove somebody. I gotta think though, Doug, a couple thoughts, and I'm really curious to get your thoughts on it. You know, number one, in hindsight, I mean, if we're looking at this in the rearview mirror, as we should, because it's in the rearview mirror, and when it does take 15 ballots for him back in January to become speaker. You know, at that point in time, from the moment he was sworn in, he was really playing with house money. And when you play with house money, you end up running out of house money, you know? And so, you know, in some respects, this shouldn't be a surprise as much as it is surprising given everything that's going on. And another thing too, which I think we'll know over time, but we just won't know right now. I just find and look, I have, you know, like most people in leadership positions, I've agreed with some of their decisions and I've disagreed with some of their decisions. And I know you probably fit in that category as well, you know, but it seems to me like this was more about a personality conflict than it was, you know, real criticism on ideology. And I'll give you an example. You know, not knowing what's going to happen next week with you know, with the race that looks right now to be, you know, Jim Jordan and Steve Scalise, although nothing will surprise me at this point. Could be a third candidate emerge, could try to draft somebody in, but, you know, both of them have lifetime conservative ratings with CPAC in the high to mid 80s. And so there's really not a lot of difference ideologically between Kevin McCarthy and Steve Scalise. Maybe a little bit difference in style, and certainly there's a difference in style between McCarthy and Jim Jordan as well. But I just got to think, Doug, this was, you know, this was, you know, so many years, the battle and the years of being, the battles of being minority leader kind of took its toll on Kevin. And but it is kind of scary when you think about it that, you know, really all it takes is 5 Republicans to side with all the Democrats and you get a speaker out. I suppose the numbers game, Matt Gaetz knew the numbers game worked for him in that perspective, but I hope it's not a pattern that we get used to, because it doesn't make us look good, doesn't help us get to a majority, doesn't help us keep a majority. I mean, and so I don't know. We'll see what happens from here.
Yeah, it's gonna be, and look, to remember here, and I say, look, Jim has done some great stuff. Jim's a friend. I've known Jim and I about like everybody else in the world. I mean, even including my beautiful bride. I mean, we disagree about stuff. I mean, if everybody agreed on everything, that's a cult. I mean, that's a problem. But when you have the ability to disagree and we come to different, the problem we've always had in the Republican conference is not over strategy. It's always been over tactics. That's become the problem. There's very few Republicans who will disagree that we need to cut spending. There are very few Republicans that we need to not rein in the government overreach and those kind of things. The problem comes in tactics, and I think this is just like football, which we're going to talk about here in just a little bit. But it's the goal is to score more points than the other team. The question becomes is how do you do that? You may have a team that can run the ball very well, so you're going to run the ball more. You may have a crazy quarterback who can run all over and throw all over. You're going to emphasize him. Or you may have just an old drop back passer like, Air Coryell from the 80s and just bomb it out all the time. The goal, though, is still to score more points. Now, some of them may emphasize defense. Wow, what a concept. We hadn't seen that in a while. But in Congress, it is – let's push it through. This is, and I think this has become the issue. I think this has been building for 12, 13 years. Jim Jordan, by the way, let's be reminded. I think, Jim would admit, he doesn't run away from this. Jim was one of the first who really began touting this motion to vacate the chair possibility all the way back with John Boehner. And it's been building, but there was never enough of a division between the minority and the majority, which there is now only four votes, that they could ever pull it off. They could get 15, they could get 16, but they never could get enough to do it. And remember, Democrats don't do this. For all the folks who thought that they were shocked that the Democrats would save McCarthy, I think that was just foolish. Pelosi and Boehner had an agreement. I know that for a fact. And McCarthy actually said that the other night. But that was back in a different time. McCarthy ruined, I think, and rightfully so. I mean, you shouldn't depend on Democrats, but he didn't, the things that's happened over the last few weeks. And this was Hakeem's, decision to say, hey, look, we got no wins here. If we help McCarthy, we're in trouble. If we don't help him, I mean, it's going to be chaos, but it's chaos now. The question becomes, though, between, and for all the listeners out there, please understand this. When they have the vote next week, do not think that we're going to get a new speaker next week. Don't think that. Because first, the Republicans have to vote on it, and all they have to have in the conference is a majority. So if they have 220 members, they need 111 members. That's all they need to win. However, you put it to the floor, they got to have 218. So let's just say that one of them gets 120 votes. There's 100 members out there that didn't vote for that person. Will all 100 of those people then vote for them on the floor? And if they won't, then Republicans need to stay in that little room until they get somebody that can.
Oh, either that or you're gonna have 15, 16 votes on the floor again. Look, make no mistake about it, though. The Democrats they share ownership of what happened. And I know, you listen. I think Garrett Graves was getting interviewed by Jake Tapper on CNN yesterday. And he said, well, wait a second. Of course, Democrats are going to do that. And I agree. I mean, if you're Hakeem Jeffries, of course you're going to do that. But it was a political decision because they knew at the end of the day, Doug, that there were going to be 4 or 5 Republicans that voted out of, 200 and,
they got 220 right now, 221, something like that.
Yeah, something like that. And so, this new speaker, the Dems have some ownership of this new speaker. When this new speaker does something that makes the Democrats have some ownership of that. Look, I'm not saying they made the bad call politically, but you got to play the politics right, and sometimes politics has its consequences too. And sometimes the politics of decisions that you make don't work out real well. And so, one thing I want your thoughts on, and then we can kind of move on. There's always stuff going on behind the scenes that we don't know about, right? And we all knew in January that this was a possibility, and then we all knew throughout these shutdown negotiations that this was a possibility. And so, Gates had been kind of teasing this all week, maybe 7 to 10 days, kind of, moving up to this. And it was obvious he was going in that direction. What I don't understand is, McCarthy, a day before the vote, sends out a tweet and says, "Bring it on." And I just assumed that there was something going on in the background, that there was a plan to deal with this. And, with seeing what happened on I think it was Tuesday, there was no plan. And so why the tweet, "Bring it on"? I don't know. Any thoughts on that, Doug?
Yeah, no, I think, Chip, it's a great question. Look, I think, okay, I'm going to give two those. I know Kevin pretty well. I'm going to say this before I get to the answer. I was very proud of Kevin's press conference that he had that evening. I think he handled himself very well. I think it was grace. He could have been bitter. He could have lashed out. He didn't. He maintained himself to be the Kevin that you and I have known. You've actually known Kevin longer than I have. But that was Kevin. Kevin is always the smile, shuck and jive. Okay, fine, whatever. That's Kevin. And I hope he never changes. I hope his experience doesn't change him in that regard. I mean, is it frustrating because he is that way at times? Yes. But yeah, that's Kevin. Because you couldn't pin him down. But I think there's a part of me, and I'm just venturing out here, I think it came to the end, I can't fight this anymore.
Yeah.
And so I might as well just throw it out there. I will tell you this. I was speaking to a member. I was texting with a member Tuesday morning. And I texted this member and said, "It looks like McCarthy's in trouble." This member had no idea. Basically, I mean, this was a Republican member. I'll just leave it at that. But basically, the Republicans said, "No, that ain't happening." Had no idea that the Democrats had, went, and said they're going to vote to not save Kevin. Had not thought about the numbers. That shows you how really this snuck up on people. I think everybody thought it was going to be like in the past. We'll get this tabled or we'll do something, and it'll never happen. And then it happened. And so I think there was some resignation, I think, in Kevin, because notice he never spoke Tuesday. He never rose to his own defense. He didn't use the magic minute and speak for 30 minutes and do whatever. He didn't do any of that. I think there came to a certain point it's just like, remember the old, for those of us in the South, remember old Jerry Clower, the old Jerry Clower stories, the comedian. And he said, as Marcel was up with the bobcat in the tree, he said, "Shoot up here amongst us. One of us got to have some relief."
Yeah.
It just got to that point. I think he just needed some relief. So I think that's it. I think they didn't have a plan. It was at that point they had to bring it to the fore, and they just hoped that something, that one or two of these, and look, there were two surprises, although it still wouldn't have made a difference. It would have been really close. But Burchett and Mace, I think, still were surprises as to actually voting for this resolution. Mace, and McCarthy even expressed this. He basically just said, "Well, you know Nancy Mace," and nobody really can track what she's going to do or not do.
That's right.
And Tim Burchett, I know Tim pretty well too. Tim's been on this podcast, and Tim has been really frustrated with Congress and really frustrated. I don't think at the end they thought, because think about this. Some of the ones who have been most vocal against McCarthy voted to keep him. Dan Bishop out of North Carolina and others. So I think they just said, "Look, we just got to throw up the reins and go." Here's a prediction. I'll get mine and then get yours. I don't see right now Scalise or Jordan getting 218. There's enough problems that each of them have with different sectors of the group that will be a problem. Could be a third party, a third consensus. I think a Mike Johnson out of Louisiana would actually be really phenomenal. possibly Elise Stefanik, others. But there is a rumor going on the Hill right now that they split this up and run as a tag team, Scalise becoming speaker, Jordan becoming majority leader. That is being floated right now. What do you think?
Well, I had not heard that, but I'm not surprised by it. I mean, you said you don't think any of them can get to 218. Well, to your point, right now they don't need to get to 218. They need to get to 112, right? 113. They need to get a majority in their conference, and then they need to have that. And so then the question becomes is, whoever gets a majority in the conference, does that mean that they're going to get unanimous support on the floor? If if recent history tells us anything, no. But I also think Matt Gaetz, in some respects, is a little resigned as well, right? He caught the car. He partnered with Democrats. There's no hiding it. He did. He's not in a position right now, Doug, I don't think, and I think he realizes this, to play too much of a role on what happens next week, right?
Yeah, I agree.
So I don't know. I mean, I think you're closer to it than I am. I think, I think your thoughts on it are probably more informed than mine. I guess I would say nothing will surprise me at this point in time about what happens next week, right? So, I mean, and James and I were recording this on Thursday, as I said. I mean, I thought I thought for certain, that the Friday podcast would have a government that was shut down. I didn't think it would have a government that was open with an interim speaker. So, it's like the weather in Georgia. If you don't like it, stick around for a while; it'll change. The same with kind of all of the movements in the House of Representatives.
I agree. All right. Well, that's enough. That's enough politics in the real world. It's time to get into our lovely world of non-reality and fantasy and everything else. But James, I got to bring you in on this one, brother. We're back to it. We're back on Friday's Finest with zoo stories. Did you catch it last week, James? The seals got out of the Brooklyn Zoo. Did you see that?
Yeah, the moment I saw it, I just started. I was like, it's just a weird reality we live in. That seals are just loot. And which zoo is this?
Is it New York or Brooklyn? I couldn't remember. It was all the rain that they got up there last week.
I know Brooklyn it wasn't the Bronx Zoo, though, right?
It may have been. I have to go back and check.
Here's the thing. The seals are in the middle of the zoo at the Bronx Zoo. I've been there a million times. They're just in the middle of the zoo. There's not like a 50-foot cage or an aquarium. They're just hanging out in like a rock in the middle of the zoo with some water around it. So any amount of water gets over, 3 feet. Those seals are living in the rest of the zoo. They're going around. They're teasing all the other animals that are in cages. I assume that's what happened. Then I'm assuming it's the Bronx Zoo. I just saw that seals were loose, and my brother sent it to me, and we were just dying.
Yeah, it was hilarious. And Chip, just to get you up to date here, we have been doing
Central Park Zoo.
Friday's Finest started Friday's Finest with months ago with these zoo stories. Dallas Zoo was having everybody escape. Then you had the Bronx Zoo and what was it? The rabid peacocks.
The peacocks were taking over the city. Yeah, it was.
Peacocks were taking over the world. So we've been keeping a zoo alert here, and now we have the rain, and it was exactly what he said. The seal jumped out, walking around, seal back in, flew back into.
They're living the dream.
Yep, they get it all. They get to make fun of everybody.
Well, it's kind of like, Doug. It's kind of like the wild safari in Pine Mountain, Georgia, when the tornado went through there 4 months ago. They said a lion or a tiger got out. It's like, how in the world does a lion or a tiger get out? And then you realize, oh yeah, a tornado came through there. So
that's got to be your worst nightmare, right?
You can't make this stuff up.
Imagine you're a person who just survived a tornado.
It was a Central Park Zoo. Hey, James,
yeah, I just
Central
saw
Park
that.
Zoo.
Could you imagine you're in Georgia?
Are you kidding me?
Imagine you're in Georgia and you just survived the. What was that?
In Georgia, though, I want to bring up to Chip. You imagine you survived all this, but in Georgia is like Texas. We have these weird just farms that are like the Pine Mountain down there. Up here in North Georgia, we got exotic animals. I mean, we got like our own Lion Kings. What is it? What was that Netflix deal?
Tiger King.
Tiger King. There we go. Tiger. We got our own Tiger Kings around here, about like Texas. I mean, if you hit one of these things get loose. I mean, it's just pretty
You're an
wild.
Irresponsible monster if you just have tigers at your house. You are. You're an idiot. And whatever happens to you, I hope you get eaten by one of them. That's all. I do.
Well, James, tell us how you really feel there, brother. Yeah, I think you're just wanting the reptile house to get loose. I think that's what it is.
Let me tell you something, Doug. The other day, this is not a joke. I haven't seen it since, so I'm assuming that I was just being delusional. But my dog comes out of the house and goes straight for the fence because there's always something over there, right? And it's been like 10,000 degrees here still, so they're out. The lizards are out. What I saw, I can only describe as like a monster. It was a full, what I saw was a foot of something that wasn't a tiny lizard. It was disgusting. It was huge, and it took off. All I know is if it's breeding, we're all in trouble.
Dallas is in trouble. We have Godzilla's spawn is in Dallas.
I'm telling you, listen, I don't take risks. If I see one of those, I'm shooting. Hey,
we'll have Chip. We're gonna definitely have a Friday Finest. Then we'll have to show the works of James.
I'll be like those people that hold up the fish, but I'll have it by its tail.
That's right.
Here's my lizard. Oh, okay. Speaking also of stupid, liberals are very happy to have migrants crossing the border in Texas because they don't have to deal with them. They go off their, straight and narrow when they get sent to Chicago, Los Angeles, New York, or still the greatest. And James, if we could put this video up at some point, the greatest video ever made was when DeSantis sent them to the Hamptons, wasn't it the Hamptons? And they stayed all of 24 hours, and you see the people, they get the buses to send them back to New York, and the residents of there are patting them on the back, say, bye, see you later, sending them on the bus.
Have a nice life.
Have a nice life, just not here. Thank you. We'll send money to your charities. We see it on TV. We'll cry and give you $20, but don't stay here. Well, now it's gotten into football, so it's real. Okay. The Army-Navy game is supposed to be played at Gillette Stadium in Boston, this year. And people who rented rooms are finding out that they no longer have rooms because Massachusetts, the governor, and others have sent these immigrants to these hotels and taken out the hotels so that normal people going to the game they don't have hotel rooms. Your government is paying hundreds of dollars a night in New York and Chicago and LA and Boston and other to house these illegal immigrants in hotel rooms while we have veterans of the United States military laying in our streets.
Well, maybe they got one of those wedding group discounts, where everybody signs up for the wedding.
The border crisis has gotten so bad in these big cities in America that Brandon Johnson, the mayor, I think it's Brandon Johnson, isn't it? The mayor of Chicago. The new one, left progressive mayor.
Yeah. I couldn't believe we actually went backwards there. Yeah.
He's going to go to the border and see, because he knows what this is a guy that became mayor of Chicago because he didn't think Lori Lightfoot was progressive enough. It's a big deal. And you know what? Kudos to Governor DeSantis and all the state leaders
Greg
in
Abbott,
Texas. For making certain that that this became a national issue and just not a Texas issue. Good for them, because it's finally gotten the attention of these liberal mayors in these big cities.
Well, now that you got the Army-Navy, game attendees upset about it as well, I mean, this is just ridiculous. But you're going to see more and more of it. Here's another interesting fact, though. The New York City folks ought to just be furious. You're the one that allowed a city council to make your city a sanctuary city, okay? Number one. Number two, now you have Eric Adams, who is completely just falling on his head. He has worked it out. I don't know how he convinced the city this was a good idea. Not only is the mayor of Chicago going to the border, which I'm glad he found, Eric Adams is flying to Central America for a 3-country tour. I mean, this is straight out of the Harris playbook, Vice President Harris playbook, to go to Central America to understand the immigrant crisis. How about understanding you got people on the streets, dum-dum? Find a place that you can go put them somewhere. What do you need to go to Central America? I bet you dollars on a donut. If there's not a picture shows up of him on the beach, I'll be shocked.
Remember, Doug, this is about root causes that cause illegal immigration. We have to find the root causes.
I take a 3-day vacation to Brazil.
3-day vacation. Yeah, James, chill. This is like coming up to an intersection with a traffic light and saying, what is the root cause for cars stopping here? And what is the root cause for cars going here? It's the red and green light. When the green light's on, you go.
Don't worry about it. Our vice president has everything under control. She's in charge of this issue.
Oh, that just makes me feel so much better. I mean, yeah. I mean, look, at least maybe, well, she doesn't know where the border is either. So, I mean, between her and Joe, the president, it's just that. But, I mean, again, root causes, and what bothers me is highly educated journalists buy that crap. Highly educated journalists on MSNBC, NBC, CBS, all these. Well, we got to understand the root causes.
Do you think they buy it, or do you think they just know their audience?
They're complicit in it, yeah.
Right? Like I just feel like I'm not saying that they don't. I think we all know that he's not. He's only going there to appease a couple of people because they're annoyed.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Like I always, and I feel like the people that are on the in media are like, I mean, obviously we know this isn't going to be the problem solver, but we have to report it like it is because it's our job, which stinks.
Well, yeah,
sort of like people reporting on Taylor Swift at the NFL, like the NFL guys who are forced to talk about Taylor Swift. Like I think that's kind of the
all right. Now we're switching into the real world again. I know y'all touched on this last week. Okay, Chip, you made the comments that you couldn't believe that there wouldn't be a shutdown last week going into Friday's Finest. I know that y'all discussed the hysteria around Taylor Swift going to ball games. And by the way, last week Taylor Swift comes to New York. They announced she's coming to New York. The Chiefs-Jets game was the highest rated football game since the Super Bowl.
Doug, they had an opening. NBC had an opening involving Taylor Swift. It was pre-production. It wasn't on the fly. They had a pre-produced video edit with Taylor Swift in it. My friend texted me and he goes, I love Taylor Swift. My wife loved Taylor Swift. We all love Taylor Swift. But we are living in a simulation because this can't be real.
Okay. Are we back into what's that, Chip? What's that movie that was Jim Carrey was in where he was
oh my God, I hate you for
they were watching him. He was going through life and he was in the movie set. Yeah, we become that as it goes. But I have one for you, though. After all the Swiftie, and again, the craziness of the media, there is sometimes, though, you got to love the social media side because the memes that appeared with Taylor Swift and Brittany Mahomes was classic.
Fantastic.
Yeah. Oh, my goodness.
Her eating chicken fingers was chef's kiss.
I mean, after last week, after last year with the quarterback series and then Brittany Mahomes – and then getting Taylor Swift, I mean, it's like she's got to be saying, really, Taylor? Really?
You're no longer the
But it's
spotlight.
great. It's great. It's great they had him in the same box in the game, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
well, it kept the cameraman from having to span everywhere, you know.
oh yeah, and there were 19 different cutaways in last Sunday night in the Sunday night.
Oh,
game.
did I say 15 and we took the over, right?
Yes, it was 19.
Y'all took
You
the
took
over.
the
There
over.
you go.
19. You know.
All right, okay, James, this is going to get personal now.
Good, show up. We need the views.
Chiefs-
We can watch Kirk Cousins.
The Chiefs are coming to Skull Land. I mean, the Chiefs are coming up to Minnesota this week. Are y'all good enough for the Swifties?
First of all, no, we're not. But no one's good enough for her presence right now. I'm actually kind of excited to see her come to the game because that means they'll show it a little more on whatever channel they're showing it on. I'll be watching it on Red Zone, but I'm sure they'll be like, well, maybe we should switch to here. Listen, it got the Chicago game views, and that was a blowout. I'm more concerned that Taylor Swift is only gonna because the Chiefs got almost got embarrassed last week. They're gonna have to come in and prove something, and you add Taylor Swift to that. I don't know if the Vikings are ready for all that.
Yeah.
Well, do we have confirmation that Taylor is gonna?
No word she's coming yet, but you know,
because I mean, I understand. You know, Taylor going to Arrowhead. You know, for the first game, and look, Taylor's got a place in Tribeca. She got a place in New York City.
Yeah,
so
what celebrities are coming
sense,
with her to the Vikings game? No.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that Taylor's got a
Who's
place
a Vikings
in
fan?
Minnesota,
Josh Duhamel, whatever the hell his name is. I think that's our Vikings fan.
Yeah, maybe. Well, she can afford to buy anything she wants to buy.
Yeah, like the stadium. She felt like it.
Yeah, I mean, okay. Speaking of that, though, coming to as you look at this phenomenon going on, though, I have to give one meme shout out before I get to what I thought was the most amazing photos of that night that had nothing to do with Taylor Swift or Ryan Reynolds or Blake Lively or the rest.
Jackman.
And but the meme that got me the most was the picture with Brittany Mahomes and Taylor leaning over to whisper something in Brittany's ear. It looked like, and the caption was, "Why does your husband keep throwing it to the other team?"
Yeah, that was my favorite too. That was great.
Oh, that was classic.
That was great.
But back to the game. The most amazing photos of the night, and I think it's been severely underreported, and I mean this sincerely, I'm not laughing at it, did y'all see in 2.5 weeks, Aaron Rodgers walking into that stadium as if he had a twisted ankle?
No boot.
Yeah.
I mean, are y'all kidding me?
Doug.
I mean, I'm sitting here problems with sciatic nerve issues this morning for all the listeners there, trying not to move my leg. And he had
it's my understanding he still had stitches in at the time. Yeah. I think the stitches have moved now, but my goodness gracious.
They're calling it the bridge or something like that. I don't know the term. I've been watching between Pat McAfee and Rich Eisen show. They've been talking about it, but like 3 weeks and he's walking. We're talking about an injury that devastates people for at one point was over a year. I think if I'm not mistaken, the first person to come back from an Achilles, or it could be an ACL, so I'm sorry if I'm wrong about this, was Bernard King when he back in the day, like in the 80s, and he came back with the bullets. He was like the first player to ever come back from it. It was a miracle. Now we're talking about Aaron Rodgers walking after 3 weeks. Think about that.
It's just nutty. And he's actually working out with what is the guy from is it Carolina or Jacksonville? That story came out that he's rehabbing with a guy who had the same thing done a few weeks ago, 3 or 4 weeks ago as well. They're rehabbing together. But he's back in California rehabbing. How did you? Oh, speaking of Pat McAfee show, okay. ESPN's done a lot of stupid stuff over the last few years. Putting the Pat McAfee show on at 12 o'clock, I think from the rating standpoint and everything else, they figured out a formula for their midday programming.
Yeah, because it's hard to watch midday TV, right? We're all working. But somehow I find a way to put that on.
It's interesting TV. I mean, I've gotten caught in and watched it, sometimes more than I wanted to. I mean, it's, it's good programming for them. You're right. Usually they show reruns of some sort of sporting event that nobody wanted to watch the first time, much less on a rerun.
Yeah.
But I enjoy listening to
They
that
get the
show
best
and
guests
enjoy watching
too.
it.
I mean, let's be honest. Some of the guests
They do a good job.
that like Stephen A. gets are good, and that's all well and good, but they don't feel as relaxed on that show. They come to Pat's show and they're like, "Oh, I can just say whatever I want."
Speaking of relax, how did you like Aaron's comment about Travis Kelce, Mr. Pfizer?
Oh my god, that was so funny. He's such a Aaron Rodgers. Yeah. I hated Aaron Rodgers, and now I'm starting to come around to it, and it doesn't feel right.
Yeah, for you Minnesota fans, you can't do that. But I mean, like Mr. Pfizer. By the way, on a really serious note, and I apologize for interjecting here, but I have to because I've gotten really upset about a lot of things I'm seeing. They're now coming out with the testing on the Pfizer, in this Pfizer sort of get it out, that the COVID vaccine has a 1 in 800 or one. I have to go back and look at this, or 8,000. It's a low number of a severe reaction rate. It's still on the market, but they did for like a couple of other vaccines that were dealing with flu or coronavirus had a 1 in 10,000, a 1 in 20, and they removed them from the market. Now think about that for a second. We've bought hook, line, and sinker. 25, 30 years from now, when we're not even moving around here, somebody's going to write a report that says, wow, they got, something went badly haywire at that point. Anyway, that's but yeah, the McAfee show, God bless him. I mean, he's funny. If y'all noticed that they have and he does it on game day as well, but he has this weird, he'll say, hey, they did a good job. And then everybody claps. They give him a clap. I mean, it's like, that's become the Pat McAfee thing, Hey, good for him.
Yeah. yeah. Everybody claps.
Yeah, but I love it. But I love it. What was it? He walked, and it's like watching a fraternity house. It really is. I mean, McAfee walks in. He talked about somebody that he saw. His buddy. Maybe James. This may be more of a northeastern thing. Did you see the episode? Was it yesterday or day before? He was talking about some beer or something in Pennsylvania.
I didn't see what beer they were talking about. Why? What were they?
Anyway, it was really some jacked up tequila. I mean, it was something really. And he had one of his guys in the booth. He said, and he called the name of this beer, and he said, "That's my guy." And he said, "That's Jim," and he named the beer. He said, then during the week he's fine, and then all of a sudden he's back crashed on this. I mean, it's like, okay, buddy, but everybody's following along with it. I mean, kids are watching it, people are watching it. It's just like the Taylor Swift phenomenon.
Yeah, I think the thing is that you just kind of like, I don't know if you guys feel this way, but I feel like I'm with my boys, like the people that I'm closest to.
Yeah.
That's what he brings, because it's basically they have like a podcast-ish atmosphere, and I think that's what people like about a lot of group podcasts is that you feel like you're part of the joke, and they let you in on it, and that's what makes it feel great. You never feel like you're in on anything on ESPN. You're like, ugh, all these rich people.
That's right.
But in seriousness, like you're in my head, I'm like, oh, I don't have anything in common with all these guys, but like with Pat McAfee's crew, I'm like, that guy has a mullet. I definitely have something in common with that idiot. Like,
Yeah, and I think that's what people do right. All right, let's switch gears. Today, instead of really going straight to the picking and talking about college football, let's get into college football, pro football a little bit. But I want to go with this off the bat. Chip, we're going to talk. I'm going to go a little bit of Southeastern Conference here, and we're going to talk 4 weeks in, 5 weeks in, hot seat.
Just Georgia in general.
Who makes it to the end of the year? And I'll go. Here's my first hot take on this. I think that the first one gone is Florida, and I just don't see him surviving down there.
Oh, Billy Napier?
Yeah, Napier. I don't see Napier surviving.
Yeah, I mean, right now it's hard. What is he in his third year down there? I mean, right now it does kind of look like, it looks like it looks like he's going to be on the hot seat. But who would have thought? Who would have thunk after? I mean, they looked terrible against Utah, but it was the first game of the season, right? And a lot of teams don't really look good the first game of the season, and it was an away game, and I think there was a hurricane coming in, so they had to make half the trip to Texas and away tonight. So you give them a pass on that. Then they ended up they beat Tennessee pretty pretty easily. I think they beat them by a couple touchdowns, but man, did they lay an egg at Kentucky this week. And lo and behold, I mean, we look up, and all of a sudden Kentucky is what are they, 5-0 again and 2-0 in the SEC? So yeah, I mean, look, it's those expectations in Gainesville are very, very tough. It doesn't look like right now he's meeting him, and I'm drawing a blank right now on the on the coach at Mississippi State that that got the job. Yeah. I mean, look, it just that's a tough place to win, even if you're a football coach that has experience of success at the head coaching level, and he doesn't. And so Mississippi State's 0-3 right now in the SEC, and it doesn't look like there's a whole lot of opportunities on their schedule to win some games. And so, I mean, right now you only got 4 teams in the conference, I think, Doug, that that haven't won a game, and that's Mississippi State. I think Arkansas hadn't won a game. Auburn hasn't won a game, although I think Auburn folks, including myself, are happy with the direction that Hugh Freeze is doing. We're 0-2 in conference, but one of them is we lost to a Georgia team that hasn't lost in 2.5 years, and then we lost to Texas A&M on the road. So we're 0-2. I think Vanderbilt's the only team in the East that hasn't won a game, and so yeah, look, this is likely Billy Napier's last year, and Zach Garnett, I think, is the coach at Mississippi State. But look, it's his first year, right? So maybe they give him another year, but we'll see. We'll see how it ends up playing. And there's always some surprises.
Oh, I agree. Hey, look, and look, this is hard for me to do, but look, in the Pat McAfee tradition, hey, Auburn, you showed up well last week. I'm at my son's wedding, and Georgia decides to almost take it to overtime. I have bridal party that are sitting around the table at the reception watching this game because it was close. Needless to say, that didn't go over well with the new bride. Let's just put it that way. James, I'm gonna switch to you. Then I'm gonna come back to you, Chip. I got one to want you to ponder on, and so you ponder on this one when I come back to you. And it's Clemson. I'll come back to you on it. James, Texas A&M. I believe, and you're out there reading Texas press and everything else. I believe that Jimbo loses this weekend to Alabama. Jimbo, they're going to figure out a way to pay him out of that contract.
For sure. First of all, the people out here, it's funny because, we have I'm in Dallas specifically. So I'm not in Austin with all the real Texas fans. But they're here. You can hear them. You can see them on Saturdays. I've been to a couple bars. It's wild. He's going to be fired if he loses to Alabama. But also, I know I'm not saying Alabama's dead because I don't want to call them dead. That's not fair. But do you think that would it be the most wild thing? I know this is kind of offshoot. Bill Belichick and Nick Saban retire at the same time. That is a legitimate possibility right now. That they walk away from the game.
I think Belichick before Saban, because I think it's going to be Saban and Kirby in Atlanta at the championship game.
So you think Alabama's going?
I think they are. I think they're going to win out. I'm not a Greg. I
don't think Georgia's going to. I know it sounds horrible.
No, I think Georgia will. Georgia will. I think simply, and again, I think schedule will play a lot into it. I think Georgia will make it, but it won't be pretty. And could they get beat? Yeah. I mean, I'm going to say they can't. But I just don't think LSU can come in. I think Alabama's going to win this weekend.
I wouldn't be surprised if Texas is there right now. I wouldn't be surprised if Texas is in that game. I think they're. I know they're 3 right now, but I think they're going to make the Final Four.
I think A&M could. I think A&M could beat Alabama. I think now the question is Chip, before we get to the Oklahoma game, does Texas beat Oklahoma in Red River Robbery? That's the big game for the weekend. Supposedly.
I, I think they do. I think Texas has a superior team, and then they do. I tend to agree with James in the fact that I think objects in the mirror are closer than they appear on rear view mirrors. And I think the end is closer than Nick Saban wants
For
it to be at
sure.
Alabama. Look, he's done tremendous things with that program. And that program has been a dynasty for over a decade. But I think they lose this weekend at A&M. I think Alabama has quarterback problems.
Yeah.
And Jalen Miller is a hell of an athlete.
He had a
And he
good
can
game
play
last week.
quarterback.
He had a good game.
He had a good
Just
game last week. He had a
it's got to
really
be
good
every
game,
week.
but they played That's right. They played Mississippi State. I don't know that Alabama goes to the SEC title game. I don't think they do. And at some point in time when you're losing 2 or 3 games a year, as Nick Saban did last year, and as he's going to do this year, Nick might want to stay and turn it around.
It's a lot of work when you're an old man.
One coach. Yeah, there's only one coach in college football right now that's older than 2 coaches, I'm sorry, that are older than Nick Saban, Mac Brown at North Carolina, and I think Don Brown is his name at UMass.
Yeah, they ain't coaching Alabama.
The end is near. The end is near for Nick Saban.
Hey, shout out to your boy Bo Nix there, Chip.
Look,
I'm a big Bo Nix fan. I went to college with his dad. His dad was at Auburn when I was. I thought as much as I didn't like it, I thought it was the right thing for him to transfer out of Auburn at the time and go to Oregon. And I'm so happy for him, so happy for his dad. And look, he got out. He completely got out of everything that was Auburn because that was his life, that was his family, that was his legacy.
A lot of pressure.
It was so much fun.
A lot of pressure.
A ton of
that's
pressure.
The whole world on your shoulders. And then
the whole world. Now. And he goes all the way across.
He's going to be a higher draft pick because he went to Oregon. That's just a fact.
100%. And I wish him well, and I hope he does well on Sundays. He's a good kid from a good family. He's a good athlete. And I think he's a bit better quarterback than he showed at Auburn. And I cheer for Oregon every week because of Bo Nix.
Yeah, well, speaking of real quickly on this one, okay, I want to like yesterday, I think, this week on Paul Feinbaum show, the Pat Smith he's a big WJOX broadcaster over in Alabama.
Birmingham.
Yeah, I think it was. Anyway, he Auburn guy, but he was talking about the fact that it was Brian Hartson, who was the coach last year?
Brian Harsin.
That basically he had to get out. That Harsin had basically spoiled the whole thing. And that was the take that was coming out yesterday on Feinbaum show.
Could be, could be. I mean, I think he and Harsin got along when he was there, but we've had for the last 7 or 8 years big problems at the offensive line position, and at the end of the day, when you can't run block or pass protect, it's going to be really hard. As the Falcons and Desmond Ridder are learning, it's going to be very hard to put up.
Yeah, I agree with that. Hey, before we get going, I got to get back to the Clemson. I gave you a moment to ponder on it. Are we at the end of Clemson, and does Dabo stay?
Well, it's funny you should mention that right after we talk about Nick Saban's tenure at Alabama, because I always thought that when Nick left, that Dabo wasn't going to be the next football coach at Alabama. He would be the coach after the next coach, meaning, whoever is the coach immediately after Nick Saban's probably not going to succeed. You want to be the guy after that guy.
Right.
Well, it might not be the case. It might not be the case anymore now that they're just a good. I think Alabama's a good SEC program, but there are a lot of good SEC programs, and now there might not need to be that transition now that Georgia's kind of risen to where Alabama was, and so
Chip, we lost you for a sec there.
Are you?
Yeah, you hear now. Go ahead.
Yeah,
Repeat your.
Yeah, I think the dominance. I think Clemson's dominance is over. I think Alabama's dominance is over. Clemson's, we already know it. They've already lost 2 conference games. and they still haven't played Miami, Notre Dame, or North Carolina, so they could lose a third or a fourth. But look, I don't think you can fire Dabo Sweeney within the next 2 seasons, unless he doesn't go bowl eligible. But I do think there's a scenario in which Nick Saban retires and Dabo Sweeney is the next football coach at Tuscaloosa.
Could see that. Hey, we're not going to touch on pros this week much. We've hit on the Taylor Swift phenomenon and everything else. But, look, the quarterback problems are emerging in the NFL. Desmond Ridder in Atlanta. Although, also, by the way, let me say something. Again, I've emphasized this before about University of Georgia. And we're seeing a lot of it. The statistics out of the quarterback position and others is – better than historically. The problem is play calling, and I go back to Bobo on Mike. Bobo is back doing play calling again this year after about an 8-year absence at Georgia, which is showing back up. I think that's going to become a real issue later on. Also, the lack of use of Brock Bowers, one of the, if not the best player in college football right now. I mean, you had 3 targets before the third quarter and 5 in the fourth quarter, in which you actually basically just put him on your back and won the game. That's ridiculous. But Chip, you and I are both Atlanta guys. I mean, and I say this sort of jokingly, but who did Kyle Pitts tick off? I mean, did he pop? I mean, did he say something wrong about Arthur? I mean, why do we not use him?
Doug, I don't know the answer to that question, but I certainly hope the answer is not that he's a bust, right? I mean, there's a possibility that the guy's a bust. I mean, it doesn't look like, and I don't think that's the case, by the way. I don't think Kyle Pitts is a bust, but Kyle Pitts isn't open in space very much.
Right.
And in college football, he was open in space all the time. And
they're not even trying to get him there, though. That's my problem.
You got to get him there, and you got to get a good quarterback that can
Desmond
throw
Ridder
there.
is terrible at football.
He's terrible, but I do think we ought to at least have the conversation. And I've seen a lot of it this week. With the good game that Justin Fields had. Even though they lost, I mean, Atlanta passed on Justin Fields and took Kyle Pitts. Right now, it didn't look like a really good play, but we've seen Kyle got injured his last year and I still think he could be a really good Pro Bowl tight end. I just don't know that he's going to be the generational tight end that we believed and that everybody believed he would be.
I guess my question is why not Taylor Heineke? I don't get it. He didn't play that bad in Washington. He actually played well at times.
Well, James, I think you're going to see Taylor Heineke. I think
give Drake London a chance, man. That kid is super special.
Yeah, I think I'm interested to get Doug's position on this, but I think the brass in Atlanta, they know right now that as of today, Taylor Heineke is a better quarterback. He gives you a better 100%. Chance to win.
Yeah.
But I think they're not quite ready. I think they're getting closer, but they're not quite ready to pull the plug on the Desmond Ridder experience because Taylor Heineke's a stopgap, right? And he'll always be a journeyman. Love the kid. I think he's a good kid. Good story out of Old Dominion. He works hard, gives himself an opportunity, but he's never going to be the franchise guy at quarterback. So I think they're waiting another couple games. I think Desmond Ridder might have 1 or 2 more games left in him. And if we don't see some growth from Ridder over the next 2 weeks, I think Heineke's going to end the season as our quarterback.
Yeah, I can see that. Hey, guys, a lot of discussion today, a lot of things going on. Great work. I think we've, a couple picks for y'all out there. I think most are favoring Texas over Oklahoma. I have to be frank with you. I'm pulling for Oklahoma. That hurts my heart. But I am pulling for Oklahoma in the Red River Shootout. It's going to be a lot of other games. One of the things I want to pick up next time we get together, guys, is on the Friday's Finest. Is the topic, and we'll write this down, James. I want to talk about, because we just ended here with this discussion of quarterbacks, and I think there is a huge disconnect between college level quarterbacks and the hype and the translation into pros. And I think we've seen that over the past 3 or 4 years. we'll discuss that more on the next round. All right, James, any last takes?
Vikings are going to win because Taylor Swift won't be in the building.
God, James. All right, Chip, what you got?
I'm taking the Vikings plus 1.5. I think and by the way, I think that has nothing to do with Taylor Swift. But I think the Chiefs have the same problem that the Dogs have. It's just tough to play early in the season when you win everything the year before, and I look for the Vikings to win at home, and I look for the Longhorns to beat Oklahoma in the Red River rivalry, and that's what I got.
All right, I got here's the last one. I've got the last word going out of this, and I'm gonna blow you all out of the water. Here's my long shot pick of the week. Maryland beats Ohio State this week.
Whoa!
Maryland. Tua's brother beats Ohio State. The vaunted Ohio State goes down. Damon Evans, athletic director at Maryland, others up. They're going to go nuts. There's your out on the limb pick for the week from me.
Is that Damon Evans? Is that the same red panties, Damon Evans?
Yeah, it's the same one from Georgia. Yeah, it is. It is. But look, Maryland has been sneaking up. Ohio State. I don't know. I said just there's my feel. I don't but I if you want a second one, Missouri beats LSU.
Whoa!
Don't think I ever don't take chances here. Okay.
Well, those are two of them. Yeah.
We got it. Hey, folks, this is the Doug Collins Podcast. You've been listening to Friday's Finest. Thank y'all for all the comments that we've heard. I'm getting a lot this week, especially on the stuff that we did about McCarthy and the speakership. We're trying to always keep you updated on what actually is happening behind the scenes. And I appreciate the notes also, folks, for listening, who appreciated me giving you that information about the letter that Kevin McCarthy had to write, that how Patrick McHenry became the Speaker Pro Tem. Most people don't know about that stuff. That's just sort of inside baseball. But I'm glad you picked up on that. We've had a great week. It's always good to be here with the gang. Chip, James, we'll be back soon next week as we get started on another great weekend. Go out and have a great weekend. If you ever want to contact us, DougCollinsPodcast.com. Hit that email button. Many of you already send it. We look forward to having it. Also, some of you have asked about speaking. If you have a group, especially conservative group or other groups across the country that you want me to come speak at, I've been asked about this. Just use that link, and then I will put you in contact with our folks to get it. If we can do it, we'll get it set up. Again, shout out to the folks in North Carolina from a week ago. It's Faith and Freedom. Enjoyed my time up there. Looking forward to being back with the great folks in North Carolina soon. So anybody, this is another edition in the books. We got it up, shipped up. We're ready to go. Chip, say goodbye.
All righty, we'll see you. Thanks, Doug. Thanks for having me. Really enjoyed it.
All right, James, say goodbye.
Take care, everybody. Enjoy the weekend.
We're out of here. Doug Collins Podcast. See you next time.